Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
What's that?
Yeah, never got to meet you.
Well, it's funny. I followed your post. Can you guys hear me? Yes.
Yep.
So I've been following you too. And it's funny, right? And I didn't like the other day, I finally thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to toss it out there and I don't know, see if he'll come on, because I'm thinking I've seen your post. I know the brand. I think we've been following each other for years.
Exactly.
And probably when you were, I bet you, probably
even when I was at Canadian Tire
or with Canadian Tire. I'm not too sure which one, because I think one of did you work with David Thorpe ever?
No,
Or did you
with through Giant Tiger? I did.
So you know what?
That's how I knew him.
Somewhere in that mess, we're somewhere in there. Dave and you blah blah blah, and I started following you as well. But it's funny because I've been the same thing. I've been following you, never met you. I think I got to just reach out to this guy. It's enough of this. What's the worst he's going to say? No.
I see Kenny's name. I'm like, I need to respond. I need to read. No. Actually,
You're funny.
I need to read this, and I need to respond.
You are funny. I told Phil after I said, I think a kid needs to come on. I think Dave is going to come on and talk to us.
Yeah, that's amazing.
What we've been trying to do, we do so much CPG on this one, right? So we do lots of food, lots of health, within that space. And recently we've been saying, listen, we got to, because we talk so much retail and so much Canadian. That's what we love to do. Like, it's got to be Canadian because I just love the Canadian thing. We both love retail. We thought we got to get out of just this pocket. Geez, it'd be great to have a clothing person come on or something in a different industry. So we are stoked to have you on because we've
got some amazing stuff like Canadian retail, food and CPG is one part of it. But like what you guys are doing at Kid and Ace and there's other folks like Nixwear, just doing some really fantastic things in the space, right? So, you kind of we look around and go, we're starting to celebrate, but we got to spread it out now, right? And just make sure our audience knows how many amazing brands there are, even outside of, because we can get stuck in food because we love food, right? So we could talk about food all day.
Food, I mean, I know.
Oh my God, yeah.
Now, if you guys can figure out how, when you guys talk about food, share about food, actually have people experience.
Oh my God,
this virtual thing,
that would be killer, man.
Yeah.
Now you're making me hungry. I haven't had breakfast yet.
This is typically our problem too. So we start to listen mine. So we start talking. Now we're both. I'm hungry. I just woke up about 20 minutes.
This is my meal supplement right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's high on caffeine. Yeah.
Well, it's fuel, right? I mean, really, whatever.
I'm a little bit after you guys, so I've had my second coffee already. So I'm holding off. Otherwise,
you're 3 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
So you're downtown, right, David? Are you headquartered in Gastown, or are you headquartered?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here in Gastown. I get here normally pretty early, so we have an open office space. During the pandemic, the team moved here upstairs on top of the store in Gastown. Have you ever been down here, Kenny? But it's upstairs, second floor, open office, and it's like a loft. Sort of the heritage style with bricks and stuff. You see my brick columns.
Old school, right? I mean, it's lovely.
It's
lovely down there.
Beautiful, but I hear there's you're recording this. If you're broadcasting this, you beep it out. But you've known to catch some rats running around. Vancouver's downtown.
It's a port city.
It's heritage. Yes,
exactly. And they're like cats down there. They're huge. I mean, it's a port.
Yeah. Well, it's like watching the movie Ratatouille, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Exactly.
They're everywhere.
That's
and
true.
You should see in our window that oversees the port, there's a beautiful cruise ship sitting right now outside.
It's lovely. Eh?
I'll send you guys a picture. Oh my gosh.
No,
I just felt like
you guys have views we just don't have. I think the flip side, you've got the boats that come in, and then if you go to the other side where the conference center is. You get the planes that land on the water. Like,
oh yeah,
between those
we
two,
get to
right?
watch
Like,
it.
gosh.
Yeah,
It's pretty
we get
special.
to see it. Oh, very.
I don't think.
But
Yeah, it's special.
but Phil, you've got. I mean, you've got the lakeshore. You got a bit of CN Tower.
You're so kind, David.
I appreciate the
Porter
effort,
Airline.
Yeah, you are so
and
kind.
Yeah,
You're
David,
so
I
full of it,
appreciate the
but you are
effort,
so
but
kind.
really, it's really not the same.
What do they have? They got high rises in a lake. Although the lake is pretty impressive. Got to give them that. That's a
The
big
lake is nice.
lake.
The lake is nice, right? For sure. But kind of water
You know what it
planes.
is? This
You
setting,
can't really
I think,
beat that, right? Like,
no. We and plus even from here, like I don't think we really appreciate. You know, when you really appreciate it when you leave and come back on the plane, you think, "Wow, shit, this really is a pretty special city. Like it's pretty spectacular. It really
mountains. You have the mountains and the sea all in one breath. Like that's not.
Yeah.
You know what? When I moved to Calgary, everyone was like, "Oh my God, you got the mountains." I go, "Yeah, but you know what? I have to drive to the mountain. Like to Banff from Calgary, it takes like just over an hour.
Yeah.
Here, I can
They're
see
right there.
Grouse Mountains.
Yeah.
It's right there, right behind.
Well, and on a nice day, you see the Three Sisters like all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's like.
We are really lucky. We are in a great spot. It's funny when you say Calgary, because we got friends like, well, we can see the mountains too. I said, I know you can see them. I can see Vancouver Island, but I can't get there in half an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanna show you guys something. Talk about views, right? Geez, now I can't find it. It's one of those things.
If it's cool, you find it.
I want to show you. No, but talk about views. Oh, here's a view from my condo. I could see. Well, actually, you can see Mount Baker.
Oh wow!
Yeah, look at
That's
Baker.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I just moved into my condo too. But I'm like, what is that? Oh, I was like, oh, I can see Mount Baker. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Was that even right? I mean, seriously,
very cool.
Snowy all the time. I don't know. I think we take it for granted. I think.
No,
it's hard not to. It just becomes so normal. And then you go to other places like Toronto or Calgary, which are nice cities. I like Toronto. I really do. But I don't know where I am because I got nothing to bench. Like here's so easy. You hit water, you hit the States, you hit mountains. Like you kind of know where you are, east, north, west, south. You just know where you are.
So in Toronto, it's easy to figure out now because traffic is so bad that you'll be stopped and you can use your Google Maps to figure out exactly where you are because you're not going anywhere. So you'll have lots of time to orientate.
Distracted driving is like distracted in queue to move. Yeah.
Well, you're not doing anything anyway. You might as well do something, right? Honestly.
Just don't get caught though.
No.
Yeah.
And pay attention when you're driving anyway. Yeah, that's a public service announcement there. How's that?
No, but you know what? We do take it for granted because I lived. So I'm glad to be home in Vancouver. I'm born and raised here, and I lived in. So half my life I lived abroad. I lived in Montreal, so I know how that is. Beautiful culture and beautiful city. And then I moved to Toronto. I was living up in Markham, but I was working down in the garment area by Yorkdale. So that took an hour drive one way. And then I lived in Winnipeg, which is a lot more quieter. Great place to raise a family. And then I moved to Calgary. Calgary's a great, beautiful city. And then now I'm home. So
you've done almost.
Don't ask me which is my favorite city.
Well, the one you're born in.
Yeah, I'm kind of biased.
Yeah. But they're all kind of nice. Like I know Winnipeg takes its knocks too. People are really friendly in Winnipeg.
It's nice there. Like in the summer, it's really nice there. I don't think I want to be there in the winter.
No, it's cold.
No,
I don't want to be there during Black
Friday, Manitoba. Oh, the only thing is mosquitoes and snow. Mosquitoes in the summer, snow in the winter. But hey, you kind of live with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it balances out. You get nice people. They're friendly. I mean, all the cities. We're lucky. Canada. I mean, seriously, of all the places you're going to be able to live in the world if you can, we're definitively not on the worst side.
Yeah,
definitively.
Exactly.
Let's
so maybe we should do a quick intro because
do a quick intro. Right? Yeah.
This is great already.
We record right away because half the time, half the cool stuff is at the beginning anyway. When we actually get to talk about the cool things we've all done.
Yeah.
We have David Louis on today. He's the CEO of Kit and Ace. Owner, David, or CEO, like owner, operator, big shot, CEO?
Not big shot, but owner and CEO, uh, partners with Joe Mimran and Frank Rocchetti. So honored to be partnered with a legend, such as
Oh
Joe
my,
Mimran.
this is really going to be a great story. You got some
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
that's
company.
interesting.
he's a tremendous guy, and of course Frank is also another tremendous legend
Tremendous.
as well. So I'm learning a lot from the two of them. Um, at the same time, having a lot of fun with the brand with Kit and Ace. It's only been 110 days or so since we bought it, and it's been a blast. It's been a blast. A lot of things on the go.
So in the
It
next
is
45
110
minutes,
days. Okay, sorry. Yeah, please,
that's
Kenny.
why, yeah. Otherwise, we'll never get any structure. We have no structure on a good day. This is the
That's
structure.
okay.
This is it.
It's Friday. It's a Friday.
Well, trust me, every day's like this,
No,
David.
every day's like
There's
this
no
with us.
every
Yeah.
day's a Friday for us. 45 minutes to an hour. It's yours. What we'd love to know is where you've come from, how you got to where you are. For us, we're probably going to learn a ton today because we really have, I did very, very minimal clothing at London Drugs. Really don't know much about the industry outside that. It's extremely difficult because if you think perishable goods are interesting on the food side, clothing may not be perishable, but she's definitely got a time life. So I'd really like to know a little bit more about the industry. I think we're going to learn a ton. I'm super excited to finally meet you. We've talked about this. We've connected for 20,000 years. Finally, nice to meet you. So next 45 minutes, hour is yours, my friend. We'll interrupt here and there because we won't understand things, but your show.
Oh wow, this is really unstructured, so it's free flowing. Okay.
Keep going, baby.
Yeah.
Now we roll.
Okay. I was hoping you pester me with questions. It makes it a lot
Well, we
easier.
will anyway.
I know you.
Maybe if you wouldn't mind, like I guess the what would be really great is tell us a bit about how you got here, because you've got
Mhm.
It's a
quite the
very
extensive
diverse.
background.
Yeah.
And then like before you did the intro, you kind of talked a little bit already, but you've kind of got like you've got some Canadian Tire experience, you've got some
Northwest
FGL
Company.
experience in there. um Maybe start somewhere in there if you want, or something
Sure.
like that, if that kind of helps to set the stage a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe I'll go back to my childhood. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think foundationally my childhood, how I was raised, has tremendously shaped who I am. You go through a period of time, you reflect on, to your question of how do I got here? How did I get here? You reflect on the whys and what brought me here. So yeah, childhood growing up, my parents were entrepreneurs. When my father immigrated here from Hong Kong, his very first job was actually working on landscaping for Jim Patterson's home. And he moved here with really just a penny, believing in the Canadian dream, not the American dream, but the Canadian dream. And yeah, he took a risk, came here, and he was an entrepreneur on his entire life, other than working on landscaping, getting his feet wet into Canada. So just being exposed to that. I'm the youngest of four in my family. I have three other siblings, and we just grew up in the family business, learning the hard knocks of everything. You talk about food, Kenny. He was in grocery. He was in restaurant,
Oh,
and
wow.
knowing, yeah, grocery in North Vancouver, Tawasin, Surrey. Like he had business everywhere,
Oh, he's
and
really all over the place.
yeah, just learning and watching him. I mean, now I wasn't really excited about the grocery business when it was an opportunity for me to take that over. I love fashion. I just love fashion. I love the excitement. And at that time, growing up, the only really hot brands were really like Le Chateau. There wasn't a lot like Le
There wasn't nothing.
Chateau, even Joe's Club Monaco. In the '80s was a popular brand. I just thought there was an opportunity, and then the influx of immigrants coming in from Hong Kong. I just thought, you know what, that'd be interesting. Why don't I don't want to go to school. I didn't like school. So I was impatient, either go further advance in education or continue in business or take over the family business. But I chose to do my own business and went into fashion. So just took the leap of faith at a young, right out of high school, went into business. And that's sort of the foundation of my entrepreneurial, and wanted to pursue business. And the way I started in the fashion business was I actually got attracted with a new shopping center in development at that time called Aberdeen Center, based in Richmond.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you remember, Kenny, back in the early days. But I was excited. I was watching a movie. And the commercial came up, and right there, it gave me the idea. That's the location I want to open my first store. It will be fashion, but what the heck do I sell? And
the industry.
And you asked me what movie it was. I can't even remember, because the entire movie I was thinking about my business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted the landlord, and I struck a deal. I was probably the second or third person to lease a space out of that mall, but I signed a lease. I signed a 5-year commitment with not knowing what I'm going to sell. So it was January of that year, and I had to open it by June, because the grand opening of the mall was in June. So I had 6 months to figure this out, and I just thought, man, well, hey, it's centrally, located, based out of like Chinese-based consumers, and I thought, I'm going to bring something from their home to their new home, which means I'm going to have to go to Hong Kong to search and look for product. So I've never been there, like from a commercial sense. I've only been there as a kid to travel with my parents. So I said to my mom and dad, I said, I'm going to Hong Kong. They go, for what? Mom, I'm going to try to do some business and bring over something. They said, okay, well, then they put me on a plane, and I flew there and had a couple meetings. And well, actually, before that, knowing that I bought a ticket, I'm going to go there, I need to arrange meetings, right? So back in the days, we used fax machines. Well, you remember the fax machines, right? They're slow and the now loud noise. So I just drafted letters, sent it, just cold call. Got 2 responses, and one response was my ultimate target. I was so happy. So I went to Hong Kong, flew there, went to the meeting, met with their executive team, was waiting for the chairman of the company. He came into the meeting, sat down, and I started talking a little bit, and then all of a sudden, I think maybe 5 minutes into the meeting, he said to his executive, I got to go. And that was essentially the end of the meeting. So I was like, what happened? So, so obviously they rushed me out, whatever, and the meeting was ended. And I'm like, okay, well, that was, I waited for him for probably 5 minutes, met with him for 5 minutes. The meeting ended in 10 minutes. So obviously that trip didn't work out, but I came back to Vancouver, and, doing a little debriefing with my friends, and they're saying, what happened? I was like, I have no idea. And we went through everything. What did I say? Was I prepared? How was I dressed? And it came up that I said how I was dressed. I was wearing my sort of varsity jacket, a white t-shirt, and a pair of jeans, and a pair of sneakers. And they said, wow, dude, you look like a kid. You're a kid. You look like a kid, and you weren't professional. Where everyone else, they're wearing suits and ties. I said, yeah. I mean, you watch enough, Hong Kong Chinese episodes. You should know this stuff. So I'm like, well, so maybe that's it. So I did the same thing. I faxed. I had formed a company. So this time I had a letterhead. Sent him the fax, and then he invited me back. Well, he invited a meeting. He accepted the meeting. So I went back there, and I met with him. And you know what? That 1 hour, it lasted 1 hour. Great discussion. The outcome of that meeting is he gave me the exclusive rights for North America. And at the end of the meeting, I asked him, I said, do you remember me? He was just puzzled, right? I go, do you remember? I was here about 6 months ago. He goes, no. So I figured, okay, maybe my pitch was better. I was dressed in a suit and tie, but I was persistent enough that I got him to agree. And so I secured a license for North America, brought it here, and opened retail stores. So that was a humbling learning experience, quite frankly.
You still had not, so at that point, like, so you had gone, you struck out, you come home, time's running because this door has
I
to
have to
open,
pay the lease.
and you still don't have anything.
No. Well,
So
at that time I
make
scrambled.
opening?
I did make opening June 9th. June 9th. June 9th, 1990 was when it opened. And I scrambled. I went to Montreal, looked for some wholesalers, bought product. There's a show mart here in Vancouver,
Yeah.
but it was nothing different, right? It was a desperate move to put product in the store. But when I got the exclusive deal, I flipped the store to the brand. It was called Theme, and then had a great run. Opened 12 stores. I was in Vancouver, had stores in Toronto.
Wow.
All the AAA centers: Pacific Center, Robson Street, Toronto Eaton Center, Markville. Phil, you're probably very familiar.
Yeah.
Fairview, Scarborough. Had a really good run. Good 10 years of building that business with a view to grow it, and eventually he is the supplier and the partner. He invested in the business, and I just thought it was a great run. And some partnerships can be really good, some partnerships can be disastrous, and it ended up not being great, and we decided that I'm going to exit the business and whatnot, and then just shrank the business, and then just sold whatever I can. And so it was high and low. So I learned a lot through that process. And respectful for my dad. He was on the sidelines helping me, but at the same time, he gave me enough freedom to make my own decisions, learn from them. And just so had that moment when we were, ranked as, one of the fastest growing companies in Canada. We were profitable. I had an opportunity to exit or invite an investor at a high valuation. I didn't accept it because as a young, naive entrepreneur, I thought, you know what, I'm going to build this. It's going to be worth more, right?
Yeah.
So in hindsight, it could have sold it for a nice hefty sum, but I took the risk, right? Try to build it, and my partner became the supplier became a partner, an equity partner, part of the business. So that's how things flowed.
So you got a 10-year run just off of facts.
Just
and lucky you got a
hard
second
knocks.
chance at it.
School of hard knocks.
Not off of facts, like off of honestly, like this
Seriously.
that you could do something cool in a geographic location. So you got a 10-year run out of a lease that you didn't really.
And so you didn't know what the hell you were doing, and then you blow the first meeting apparently, and you
blew it.
The second one. So I mean,
and I went through everything. I tagged everything myself, like distributed, allocated, priced it. It's like it was a great learning experience. I'm so if I didn't take the risk, because I didn't like to go to school. I don't know how I end up, right? So
you'd have been in the grocery store.
Yeah, I truly respect it. I mean, actually, Kenny, I believe fashion is like grocery.
Yeah.
It is perishable. It's not like you can consume it, but you consume it in a different way. But there's a lifespan. There is a lifespan. So
I don't think people understand that part. We'll get that probably down later in the podcast.
Yeah.
But I don't think they understand the complexity. Yeah, lettuce and tomatoes, you got 6-7 days. Other things you might have a year. Clothing is very similar. There's not a highly seasonal, obviously.
Maybe just a little bit longer dating. But bananas and tomatoes is like our t-shirt and our blazer, right? So
summer and winter's winter, and
And in some respects, it's actually more painful, right? Like if you buy a bad batch of perishables, at some points they come off the books because you just have to throw them out, right? But it's fashion, you to me, the part that it's like you buy a pattern that you really love or you think is going to be hot, and then it's just not. But it never goes away, right? Like it goes from one bin to another. It's like,
Well, there's that
for the
one
love of
price
God,
for
somebody buy
95%
this, right?
off.
Like, can I
Okay, now
give this away? What do I do with it, right? Like,
Phil, you're going to open up a can of worms, because now the key topic of sustainability,
yeah,
right? What do you do with it? How do you dispose of it? I
What do
mean,
you do?
you burn it, and hopefully there's no doesn't affect the environment, etc. But yeah, it is, but there is a lifespan.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, think about it. You're in the store, especially in our country, because we have 4 distinct seasons. You're it's winter. What am I going to do with summer stuff? It's not as easy as people think. You can't get rid of bathing suits in December unless we're going to Mexico. You're not going to sell a shit ton of bathing suits in Vancouver in winter. What do you do with stuff? Like, you got to move things quickly, because you don't have to find time. Try to make as much money as you can at the beginning, and then you watch clothing, right? It comes in, it's full price for the first month, then it's 20, then it's 50, then it's 70, then it's 80, and hopefully it's gone. And then you start again. That's why
right.
I've always stayed away from fashion, because clothing is really, really tough.
But you know what, Kenny? I don't know, I'm biased. It is one of the most funnest, not even sure if funnest is a word, but I'm going to use it.
Use it anyway.
One of the most funnest in industry, quite frankly. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, guys, girls, whatever. I mean, we all dress, we all wear product, and I just love the pace of it also. So yeah, cool. So that was my first official venture as an entrepreneur, and then afterwards, having exiting the business, I took about a year off, did some consulting for smaller businesses, and you do some evaluation, and I'm like, what do I do next? And I got a call from Esprit. And Esprit was interesting because I also met some people when I was in my travels in Hong Kong, and they knew I left the business, and says, hey, would you like to join me and take over and run Esprit Canada? So I went and worked on that brand. So that's what brought me to Montreal.
Wow.
Because it was based out of Montreal.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, well, this is nice, because it's a great brand. Unfortunately, what's happening today, but it's a bit of a rebirth today also. But it brought me to Montreal, worked on a very exciting brand, and had the opportunity to turn around that business. It was mainly a wholesale business with retail, but we wanted to go directly with retail. So we shrank the wholesale business, expanded the retail side. At that time, it was about 19 stores. We closed them all, reopened 19 brand new stores under a new format, and then continued to expand it. It was a hell of a run, because it was looking at everything from product, marketing, positioning, people. In the meantime, we decided to move the office from Montreal to Vancouver, right in the midst of it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I can't remember how old I was, but 28 at that time, 27 at that time. So it was a lot of fun.
It's a hot brand.
Yeah.
It was a hot brand. Like, Esprit was a big brand.
Yeah, so it was great. So gave me a lot of exposure, opened stores across Canada, and then got involved with cosmetics. I was the president for the Red Earth division, which is the cosmetics division, and put them into our stores. So yeah, got learned cosmetics too. Cosmetics also has a shelf life.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Colors have a shelf life.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Scents have a shelf life. I mean, it's crazy. It's nuts. Especially fashion is anything on that side is, oh my God.
Yeah.
So fast. So from this one, so you do 2 clothing type things. So I'm curious, like, how do you end up in a Northwest company and then a Canadian Tire?
You know what? How I got to Northwest? Well, then after Esprit, I went to Nygaard,
right.
Which which is another apparel brand based out of Winnipeg. So that brought me to Winnipeg.
Well, that's how you got the
yeah. So I was working for Peter. I was running the retail operations, and then eventually moving into marketing, or added marketing and branding. You know, he learned a lot. He's a very interesting character. I'm sure if you heard of him, or he's in the news. Anyways, it's probably something. Anyways, I'll stay on the positive side. Learned a lot from him. Had a good relationship with him, but other than that, it was difficult to it was under different circumstances there. So, and then Northwest came knocking, and quite frankly, it was a very interesting decision to move, is because it's going back to my roots, how I was raised, right? Back in the grocery, it had hard lines, soft lines, also like produce, right? Fresh grocery, and the fascinating part of it is the diversity, and where the locations were based out of.
Yeah,
like South Caribbean, the South Pacific, Canada, U.S., Alaska. So
and remote.
Very hard to reach, right? So the Northwest Company, actually the Northern Stores, is one of the oldest companies in Canada. So I think the Bay, yeah. So Northwest was formed in I hope I got my dates right, 1668. And if you look at the Hudson's Bay Incorporation, I think it was 1670.
I think they're 1670. I think it was 2 years old.
Yeah.
I kind of remember this too, because Northwest Companies, it's iconic. Like, people here may not know it, but it's huge in Manitoba. It's huge. Like, it's big.
Yeah. And it used to be part of the Hudson's Bay. So it was, so Northwest, so it was interesting back then, because we would debate with the folks at the Hudson's Bay and say, we take pride in being the oldest company in Canada, and the folks at the Hudson's Bay said, no, we are, right? So, well, look at the charter and all this stuff. It was fun. It was fun to talk about that, but a lot of history. So a lot of history, hard to reach, remote locations, and the fact that it was growing substantially. And then it also had Kenny. How I met with Dave is because through Giant Tiger.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And these are all now marketing roles, right? Now you've moved into
more of a marketing specific, but I still had the entrepreneurial bug. I approach every role as an entrepreneur, thinking about, how does what I do impact a business? What from a financial perspective, what's a deliverable, plus also how I behave. I think of it as, I'm the owner in this role. How would I need to behave? How would I need to perform? That's sort of the core essence of what I bring in my corporate life. Yeah.
Okay, and then from Northwest you go to Canadian Tire, which again it's a little bit of
I went back to apparel. I joined Marks. Then eventually, as part of my role at Marks, I've added Sport Check on top of that. But again, it was Canadian Tire is iconic, big successful brand, big successful businesses, and Marks was also very successful, and Sport Check was also big. So great exposure to a publicly traded company as well, and the demands of KPIs and deliverables of those businesses. But I learned a ton. I think I go into everything with a mindset that I'm going to learn, right? Of course, you bring with you experiences, but the biggest thing, I like to learn. And right before Canadian Tire, I talk about I hate school. I went back to school. I went back to school in 2013 as an adult.
What'd you take?
I took my MBA.
Okay, for you.
Yeah.
For a guy who hates school.
Yeah, for the guy who hates school.
Yeah, who loves to learn on every job he has and hates school.
Maybe I just like to learn without the
formality of the tests and all the bullshit. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But it was a great experience. I went back to school, and people ask me, why did you do that? Well, two reasons. One is to fulfill my parents always wanted me to go to school, but they also, didn't want to force it on me. So it's kind of fulfilling their what they wanted of me. And then second, really, I just thought, being through corporate entrepreneurship, etc., I mean, maybe there's a value to formally structure my thinking.
Right.
So if I look back to the value of the program, was really helping me structure thinking and approach. And because it was a case study method, it was a great way because it gave me insights in, because I love reading. I love reading a lot about businesses, but case studies allow you to dive deeper with numbers. And then you just learn different how businesses run and operate and how they approach in different circumstances, whether it's growth, turnaround, raising of funds, etc. So that helped formed a lot of my thinking in the latter years.
Latter years.
Can I ask you on that? Because I think MBAs are interesting and lots of people talk about them. Like, because you have this really serious entrepreneurial bone in you. Did you find the MBA limiting, or were you looking for particular things in an MBA program? Do you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes, like, I think when you are a student and you don't like studying, it's usually because of the structure, right? So I'm curious, because I think
usually
there'd be a lot of entrepreneurs
appreciate
who
it later,
know, right?
Because I think feels like, because we both went to university right after high school, kind of thing.
Yeah.
What like you hated school, I get it, and we all did. We all went through it, but what it taught you was structure. So you kind of got a way of thinking. I just find it interesting that you do all these years of entrepreneurship, and you've got this, like you said, this bone in you, and then you sort of crave the structure that potentially you didn't have. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, geez, just must be the coffee. Just lost the train of thought here.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's usually us.
No, in school, well, couple of things that almost to answer your question, Phil. What actually, I wasn't seeking it, but what became very revealing to me is more validation. Looking and studying all these different businesses and how these different courses, it helped me validate what I was doing in in my past.
Right.
Was I doing it correctly, or and then it reflected, could I have done things differently? So that's one thing. So a bit of a, not sure if that's the right word, but maybe a validation, or just reinforcing what I was doing already. Second thing was really along the lines of, I was very interested in so I'd say I didn't like structure, but where I excelled in the courses were more structured. I'm not sure if that made sense, but like analytics, finance, corporate finance, accounting, that those courses were more structured, and I found that I excelled in that because I found that I had a lot more interest in it this time.
Yeah,
I'm more of a creative person,
right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, once you start going through business and you open and close these businesses and you're expanding, you understand the importance of finance and the accounting. It's different, right? When you're young or you haven't done it, I mean, that's the boring shit, right? The fun stuff's going to Hong Kong and buying stuff and opening stores. You don't,
right? Exactly, right. Meeting people, hiring people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cash flow doesn't mean anything to you until you have no cash flowing, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I wish I remembered more about what they taught me, because somehow I'm not supposed to be here, I don't think, right? Like
yeah. Well, you talk about, so cash is king.
Yeah.
So if you ask me two things that I would, I have a lot of things I've learned, but what are two things I learned if I had reflect back or throughout my career? Two things. One is pay yourself first.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, so one thing I've when I had my businesses, I reinvested every penny, right? But I should pay myself first. So one thing I learned is pay yourself first, and the second thing for me is focus on people. you can get caught up in all the, like the bullshit of, store openings and growth and all that stuff. But if you don't have the people behind it, then you can't do it all on your own.
No.
You can't do it all on your own.
No.
So
I like
lots of learning.
The pay yourself first is something I think entrepreneurs will have to learn. We hear that a lot. I think this week right, Kenny, we probably talked to 3 or 4 brand owners that are like, I haven't paid myself in, a year. Like
there's book on book that'll tell you that when you put none of them do that. It's not none of them, but most don't start with the numbers. Sort of what you were saying, David. So what most do is you just start. Right?
Yeah.
And there's not enough to pay you because you never had a model, like you just started. But if you do start and you start with the numbers and look at it and make sure you pull money out, because to pay yourself in 10 years of non-sustainability or sustainability only because you never got paid is not sustainability.
Yeah.
That's like starvation and poverty. I mean, you can't run.
No. Yeah, and I look at pay yourself first in 2 aspects. One is, of course, monetary. Even if it's nominal.
Exactly.
Put some money aside because one day, like a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
Because one day you may need it, right? And it's hard, but you just do it. You hear about the 10% rule, right? Put 10% of your paycheck, put it aside. Don't even look at it, and you actually, once you do that, you actually won't miss it. Right. But cash is king for sure. But pay yourself on the other side is learn everything you can. So that's part of being pay yourself, right? Just right. Pay yourself, meaning learn as much as you can, be humble with it. And that's one thing I when I reflect, I was just too naive, right? It's like, I'm going to grow this thing, whatever. I'm going to reinvest everything. And part of it, I could have divested a good portion of my ownership. I didn't, but I learned that. So pay yourself first.
Yeah.
And
it's all part of it, right?
Exactly.
All part.
So I pay myself first now. So that's and then Canadian Tire. Then I got involved with a private equity firm, and we bought Corite, which is very interesting. That really gave me an opportunity to get back into, in a bigger way, an entrepreneurial side. And I didn't know anything about gemstones or jewelry, but it is fashion related, which is cool. But gemstone being mined in Calgary, actually Lethbridge, southern Calgary, and it's one of a kind, only found in one spot in the world. It's prehistoric, and what really sold me is, I'm not sure you guys love dinosaurs, but what really sold me is the fossils, where the gemstone is derives from. It's a fossilized sea creature that swam in the oceans during the dinosaur age. So when the T-Rex was roaming the land, these ammonite shell creatures were swimming in our oceans.
Cool, right?
Right? It's cool, right?
And so in the ocean in Lethbridge.
Well,
pretty cool.
Remember, the continents
I know,
moved, right?
Yeah, but that's pretty cool, right? I mean, when you start thinking of that, that's pretty neat. I mean, come on.
It's very cool. And when I started, when the PE firm, when we were talking, it's like, the more I studied it, it's like pretty fascinating. You got a great story with dinosaurs. You got a great story of 71 million years, and it's only one spot in the world, found only here in Canada. And there's a lot of key, value propositions, and that's really attracted me. And so bought the business in 2020, and during the pandemic, and it was weird because we went through a restructuring because of the pandemic, and bringing that brand, refreshing it, and not just celebrating the fact that it's 71 million years, but also it's a desirable, attainable product. There is a lifespan,
right?
Because it's only mined economically in 10 square kilometers. So over time, it will exhaust. So
right.
The appreciation of price, the rarity of it, we're in like some of the big auction houses, Sotheby's, Christie's, and these collectibles are worth a ton of money. And yeah, we've got we don't know specifically the names, but some really well off, like some of the princes, some of the billionaires that we would know. I kind of know who, but I can't say who. But some of the folks that we would know, they would buy it and collect it. We had one flew into Calgary in our office and bought 14 out of our showroom. And literally, I was standing beside him. He was on his phone. He goes, "David, one moment, please. I'm just transferring you the funds." I'm like, my eyes just popped, right? So I'm like,
all right.
But it's a collectible item.
Wow.
And it appreciates in price over time.
Okay, well, that one.
Oh, yeah. So that was fun. And you know what? But when the opportunity with Kit and Ace came about almost a year ago, when I first started talking, and I just wanted to get back into fashion, and this was a great opportunity. It checked all the check marks. For me, it was coming back home to Vancouver, and my mom's on her own. She's not well. She's, health issues, etc. In our culture, as a son, we do feel obligated, to look after them. So it checked off all the check marks. Vancouver, my wife's family's here. Check that off. It was great, and great brand, great opportunity, great team of people, and here, beautiful Gastown, right, Kenny?
How did the opportunity present itself, though? Did you just stumble into it? Did you know the folks that were looking to sell and or looking to buy? Because I think there's a bit of both in this one.
No, good friends with George, who was the CEO. He bought the business from Chip in 2018.
Right.
No, just actually, I was looking at this other opportunity, and it was actually last year, 22 Retail West, when I was on the panel, and I took the opportunity. I said, "Hey, George, let's go and have coffee," and we caught up for coffee, and I wanted his advice on this other brand, and he brought up, he goes, "How about Kit and Ace?" And I'm like, "Kit and Ace? What's up with that?" And he goes, "Oh, we're looking either for investor or whatever." It just morphed from there. It was October 27, 2022. Can you believe it? It's like a year has flown by. Yeah. So, but I never thought like Kit and Ace. Oh man, because the brand perceptually is bigger than what we are today, but there's huge opportunities, and just started talking throughout the holidays and into the early part of this year, right? And the conversation became like, well, why don't we look at a complete acquisition, right? And I can't say too much, but Chip was involved as well, and etc. But it was a bit of a surreal moment because didn't know how this would pan out. Because it wasn't through a process. This was it was a private opportunity, right?
Right.
It was an opportunity, and just the discussions, the negotiations, a lot of back and forth, and then I caught up with Joe, and in one meeting, he expressed interest to come in, and of course, no brainer, right? I think I'm 95% confident in myself, but man, I was 10,000% confident
that's a given,
Joe on board. Right? Yeah, that's a given, no brainer there. And fantastic relationship, fantastic partnership. I'm not just saying this because I'm being recorded, but truly, it's been a humbling. You watch the guy growing up with Club Monaco.
He's pretty iconic, right? I mean, really.
Oh yeah. With what he did with Alfred Sun, Club Monaco, Caban, then ultimately Joe Fresh, and I tell him that all the time. It's like I still pinch myself, right? And he always say, "Stop it,"
He's pretty iconic. Like he really is. Come on,
very humble guy.
Yeah.
Learned so much, and the amazing thing is, we see a lot of similar things, and that's what makes a good partnership. And then where we don't see similar things, it's also a good friction.
It's actually good too,
right?
though. You don't need to be the same. Diversity and some sort of tension or yin and yang is not bad in life. You kind of need to balance out, right?
Yeah. And then of course his business partner Frank has been doing business with Joe for a great number of years. You know, through Loblaw with Joe Fresh, Australia with Coles, and again, you know, like he has a different perspective. But it's amazing. I call it the triple threat in a way because the three of us think similar. There's a lot of similarity, but also a nice healthy friction, which makes it a very strong partnership.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So Kid Nate's checked off a lot of boxes. But you know, I've invested. I have several other investments, smaller brands, of course. I'm involved with sporting goods, whether it's, you know, skincare. I'm still involved with cosmetics, technology. One completely manufacturing, bridges. There's different investments and different hands. Well, I only have two hands, but
it's fingers.
No, I
feet.
I actually don't think you do. I think you've got.
No, I don't think you understand it either. I'm just going whatever.
In the background, but
yeah,
that's what it feels like. So, yeah.
So that keeps me busy.
You're definitely a going concern.
Well, I'm hoping. You know, one thing for sure, and another thing I've learned is, you know, try to do as much when you're still capable.
Yeah.
Right. I you know, I'm getting older, so things are, you know, but at the same time, one thing I've learned now is look after your health.
Right.
Yeah.
You get older, in theory, we're supposed to get smarter. So
yeah,
hopefully that's working for you.
Theory.
Yeah.
So with Kit and Ace Night now, so where are you right now? Where do you think this is going to go, or what's the sort of plans? Because you guys are brand new to it, so you must have a vision. You don't have to, no trade secrets, obviously, but what are you thinking?
No, you know what? When we look at the brand, we think we want to stabilize the business. I think the business went through the two bumps, right? With rapid growth. We do think chipping away because he invested a lot of money building the brand, which has a lot of brand equity. So publicly, people love the brand. People love what our product stands for. We just want to we want to create some stability in the business.
Right.
So stability in the business, put foundations for sustainable long-term growth. Not ranking them in numbers, but they're all in parallel. But priority in terms of revisiting the product design, making it more appealing. We find there's a huge gap opportunity with our women's business. Men's, we feel we've got it. Very strong. So women's, it's a huge opportunity. Looking at, you know, design, because right now, mom and son can shop with us.
Right.
I want the couple, him and her, or you know, if they come in, they both can pick up something.
Right.
So there's a huge opportunity in that space. So realigning our positioning, our target, who we're serving. We want to build those foundations, and then we are looking for growth. Our retail business is very strong. We only have 4 stores today, but you know what? We have a very nice, healthy e-commerce business. The stores are performing double-digit comp. Like, you know, Kenny, you've been.
What do you want, right? I mean, shit.
Right.
You get double-digit comp right now. I mean, I think you're doing well. And then if you got an online business, I mean, even so much
that supports it.
Let me ask you that. So, because clothing is very different than food. As much as there is a lot of buy online, pick up in store, in grocery for sure. There is online shopping where they'll deliver it to the house, but grocery is still predominantly an in-store experience. It's still pretty much you go to retail. Where clothing, trust me, because I can see it in this house. I can see how many boxes come in. Online is relatively strong in clothing. Shipping companies are making a shit ton of money because I see a lot of boxes leave the house. So there's a lot of movement of goods. But so what is that side like in terms of if you're in your perspective, like, is clothing going to be? It'll always be in retail, I'm assuming, but is the online going to? I'm trying to figure out where it's going, I guess is what I'm asking you, because I don't. At the beginning, it was huge because you could return things for free. It was easy peasy.
Yeah.
That seems to have changed. There's a cost to it, but I'm trying to understand where this goes.
Well, I think online, online. If you're not online, you're not being relevant. Number one.
Period.
Number
Correct.
two, online needs to tell your story, not just to be transactional. So right now we're transactional. We're going to change that.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, you look at your own consumer behavior. If you were to look for anything, whatever category, whether it's clothing, electronics, whatever, what do? You go on your computer first and you're searching, you're doing your research. And then you see a brand, you're going to go on their website and you want to be inspired. You want to be inspired, educated, and then of course, hopefully motivated to go and seek you out. If we're purely transactional, so I think that's where online is going to have to play, is to be that brand storytelling, telling you the why versus the what. You know,
Right.
like the what is transactional, the why is motivation, inspiring you to come and experience us. So the online piece is going to be your first point of discovery, and ultimately it's going to be omni, right? Because whether they want to buy online or BOPIS, you talk about BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. But what we find is people are going to our store, right? And they're experiencing, they want to try it on. We always have a saying here, people touch our fabric, they fall in love with it.
Yeah.
Once they put it on, they're married to it, right? So we need that experience in the store. So online it's gonna remain. It just you can't measure it. What's going to be challenging is measuring it purely based on a sales channel.
Right.
Right? Because digital advertising, it's not cheap anymore. You only have a limited amount of budget and limited amount of attention span from the consumer.
Right.
Right? So what do you want to tell them? Like, I don't want to keep telling consumer that we're on sale.
No.
I'd rather tell them why they need us, right? I want to inspire them. So advertising is not just to drive e-com, it's to drive wherever they buy us, right? Because we're going to look at potential selective wholesale opportunities. So
Right.
so if we do that, we want consumers to be inspired to seek us out, whether we're in select retailers, our own stores, or online. It's omni.
I get more happy with that because as old school, I still like store experience. Now, I don't like necessarily the store experiences we're getting today in a large respects, but I do like, I like using online the way you suggested. I'll buy online, but I predominantly buy in store. But all the hunt is online. I'm not running around the city hunting.
Yeah.
Hunt at home, then I'll go out and I know where I'm going. And then I like to, because I'm like you, I like to touch it. I like to see it. I like to see what other people look at when they're looking at it, because it can change how you buy or what you buy, right?
Right.
And
So,
I think that's important. Like with Kit and Ace, the story is compelling, right? Because you look at the product and you think, like, this is not an Amazon product. Like you're not going to go online and buy a nice shirt like this for $20, right? Like Kit and Ace it's a dollar ring. So the story, love it because the story needs to ring true, right? Because they're going to have to buy this story before they ever, really want to think about, like, where does this fit in my wardrobe?
right.
Like
we're not cheap. We're not fast fashion. We're not disposable.
Yeah.
We're something that that's why, like for me, when I was doing my due diligence, I was in China in April, May, and I brought my wardrobe, and I was moving a lot. Like it was hot, so I want to see it. Does it live? Does it breathe?
Right.
Does it wear well? Does it wash well? Because I was gone for 2.5 weeks, right? And one thing it held well. I know this is not a commercial, but I'm just telling you, like it held well. It washed. I don't need to stick in a washer. I don't need. I don't need to stick. I don't need to dry clean it.
Right.
I could, machine wash it, dry it, wear it again and again and again, wash it and do it, rinse, repeat, and wear it again, right? And it worked, and it held. Like sometimes if you wash some garments, like the collar goes and it doesn't sit well, it all holds well. And so I'm okay to spend $100 versus a $30 t-shirt,
Right.
right? Because I get just more mileage out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you said, you got to be able to tell that story, and you got to give me a compelling reason to want to show
Exactly.
up. And it's not a big deal to, in all honesty, I think a lot of people would rather do that. I'd rather buy the shirt once than 17 times, because after the first wash, the collar is gone, the color is starting to bleed or fade not even evenly, which is even worse. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to tie
Or
dye.
shrinks.
Or
Right? Like shrinks another size smaller.
Yeah,
which
exactly. Or it doesn't do what it's supposed to. It doesn't breathe well. It doesn't sit well in humidity or whatever environment you're in. Like, those are all, there's reasons you pay sometimes. Not all times, but most times there's a reason why you're paying for it.
No, exactly, right? And so I call it's an investment.
Yeah, well,
right? It's an
you can
investment.
wear a shirt for a couple years, better than a couple days.
Yeah, and on top of that, you're looking great.
Plus, you look hot,
and
right?
then you're personally feeling great. That's money you can't buy, right?
Yeah, that's not the worst place to be, right?
No.
No, very cool.
David, this has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for answering back. Like, I honestly didn't think in a million years you were going to say yes to coming on. I thought, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to try. I'm
tempted to ask you why you think that way.
You know why? Because you know what, in all honesty, okay, don't take this the wrong way. You're the CEO of a company. You've done a whole shit ton of things. You're in a whole different league. We're just a small podcast. You know what? We're two guys that just plug through retail. Like, we've done some interesting things. But seriously, I mean, I'm always thinking the podcast you would be on would be a multinational. Like, it's a whole different league. Like, why would you come on not to downplay us, but it's like a rinky-dink little podcast with these two idiots.
No, so Kenny. First of all, not only that we knew each other. Here's a big thing for me. Growing up in an environment where we're a minority, me having to constantly trying to prove myself. Had really great parents, but I've learned enough that be humble in the process. Like, frankly, a lot of people say the same thing. I'm like, no, at the end of the day, I'm just running a great retail business. I'm working with people,
right?
And yeah, no one's bigger, no one's small. Like, because what you guys are trying to do, you're trying to build your presence, build your offer. Look, if people didn't give me a chance, I wouldn't be where I am, right? And if people didn't believe in what I can do or what I can bring, I wouldn't be where I am. So, absolutely, pay it forward, right? Pay it forward. Help. Like, I mentor. I talk to a lot of young kids. Like last night I was at an event. Now I'm mentoring two SFU students that are aspiring to do what I want to do what I did.
Right.
But I want to caution them: pay yourself first.
They'll teach them something.
Be humble.
They don't have to learn. Yeah. Like, they're going to make mistakes, and they need to. You have to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But they don't have to make all the
costly mistakes.
Exactly.
That's costly mistakes.
Exactly.
So,
try to mitigate those ones.
So anyway, that's why, Kenny.
I appreciate
either small or big, no problem.
I seriously appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. And it was finally nice to actually have a chat with you and meet you.
Well, we need to grab a coffee, my friend.
I'm all over that. Trust me, Gastown's not that far from where I live, so not a big deal. Love to come down and see the place and grab a coffee. We'll do a little bit better than that one, though. How's that?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
We will. Okay. And Phil, when I'm in Toronto, I'll come and see you.
Yes, please. Yeah. We'll definitely. I'll find you some.
You'll find a nice coffee spot too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, David. Phil, you stick around. David,
have
an awesome day. And again, thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Take care, David.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's cool. Kitten Ace.
Interesting story.
Yeah. Very interesting story.
It's been around, man. Diverse. And I mean, yeah, lots of retail, but like all
No,
over the place.
but all sorts of weird retail too, right?
I
Like
know.
gems, like collectible gems to like the Northwest Company is amazing, right? Like that whole
Northwest Company is a
story
really
is,
cool story, right? Because they service such remote
that'd
spots.
be interesting. I wonder if we could get someone from Northwest to come on.
I'd love to have Northwest on
That would
just for that
be,
reason, because
if you're still around, it's like an hour 10 into this, but if you're around and you know someone at Northwest, hit us up because I think interviewing not only Canada's oldest retailer, but probably one of the world's oldest retailers would be very, very interesting.
I think it's just very cool. And I think if people
Yeah.
don't know, it's how they service and who they service. So,
Yeah.
but like most of the territories, that's good. I mean, it's hard to get goods north
Yeah.
anyway in this country.
That's how I met them is when I was at Unilever and I was doing customer service. Northwest was one of mine, and then when I was on a call with the guy that I kind of do order desk with, and he was telling me about, listen, I really need this shipment by, and I said to him, I don't understand, like what's the big deal, right? Like I'm gonna get it to you, and he said, no, you don't understand. Like we have a very small window to get up north, right? So when the
Ice
lake's
bridges or
frozen,
whatever.
yeah,
I
when
mean,
the lake's frozen, we gotta go, and then if we don't go, we got a handful of hours or a day or two, and then
exactly.
it might be gone. And
Yeah.
then, we could have a tractor trailer stuck up there. It could sink in the lake, like all these. And I was like, what the
Yeah.
heck? Right. And that kind of started me down this path of like all these really cool things. Right. So,
We should, I guess, some logistics going north in
yeah,
our country,
yeah, that would be,
because it's a fascinating. We
yeah,
have
yeah,
a big country with a lot of freaking land.
yeah. I guess listeners, if you know someone that does that and is kind of familiar with shipping up north, that's also someone we
I'd
would
love to
love to
talk to
have on
that.
the show.
Yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, we're an hour 10. We're in. Thank you so
thanks
much.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Um,
listening.